You might believe your biggest fears lie in failure, in the sting of defeat. But what if the most profound terror resides in the potential you actively choose to ignore? But what if that very comfort is slowly, imperceptibly eroding your edges? What if the familiar warmth is a deceptive embrace, keeping you tethered to a version of yourself far smaller than you could be? Right now, you might be nodding, a flicker of recognition in your eyes, because deep down, you sense it, don't you? That nagging feeling that you're capable of more, yet something unseen holds you back. We're going to unravel that something today. We're diving deep into why people choose to stay weak, the subtle psychology of weakness, and how the seductive comfort zone trap ensnares us. But this isn't merely about spotting the problem. It's about forging a way forward through the Stoic mindset, inspired by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. Weakness isn't the absence of strength, it's the active cultivation of regret. Think about a moment you shied away from a challenge. Maybe it was a difficult conversation, a risky opportunity, or even just pushing yourself a little harder during a workout. What was the immediate feeling? Relief, perhaps? A sense of avoiding discomfort? That's the siren call of weakness, the immediate payoff that blinds you to the long-term debt. The siren sings of a fleeting peace, a moment of reprieve from the tension of striving. It promises to protect you from the pain of effort, from the humiliation of a stumble. But this promise is a lie, a deception that leads you down a path of increasing self-doubt. The hidden cost of why people choose to stay weak isn't just the missed opportunities. It's the slow erosion of your self-belief. Each time you choose the path of least resistance, you send a subtle message to yourself: I can't handle that. You're telling yourself you are not capable, not deserving of the struggle or the eventual victory. Over time, these small surrenders accumulate, forming a formidable wall around your potential. This wall is not made of brick and mortar. It's a psychological barrier, a fortress of your own making, built with every avoided task, every quiet retreat, every whispered, I can't. You start to believe your own limitations, not because they're real, but because you've consistently acted as if they are. This is the insidious nature of the psychology of weakness. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy whispered in the quiet moments of decision, a silent agreement you make with yourself to remain small and contained. It's a mental habit that grows stronger with every repetition, making the next act of retreat easier than the last. This process of quiet surrender becomes a profound form of self-sabotage, where your own hand holds you back from your own potential. You become your own jailer, and the key to the cell is the courage you refuse to use. Consider the athlete who skips training sessions because they don't feel like it. The immediate comfort of staying in bed outweighs the perceived discomfort of exertion. But what's the long-term cost? Stagnation, diminished performance, and the gnawing feeling of not living up to their potential. Now, extend that thought to other areas of life. Consider the professional who avoids learning a new software system because it feels too daunting, or the parent who chooses not to have a difficult but necessary conversation with their child because it's emotionally draining. In each case, the immediate comfort is a mirage. The professional skills become outdated, their career opportunities shrink. The parent's relationship with their child suffers from unspoken resentments and misunderstandings. This tendency to prioritize fleeting comfort is the very essence of the comfort zone trap. It's a trade you make every day. You sacrifice a future of growth and resilience for a present moment of ease. But this trade always leaves you with less than you started with, and the debt it accrues is a mountain of unspoken regrets. Your comfort zone isn't a sanctuary, it's a velvet-lined cage. Why is the comfort zone trap so, trapping? Psychologically, it boils down to a few fundamental human tendencies. We are wired for safety and predictability. Novelty and challenge, while potentially rewarding, also carry an element of risk, of the unknown. Our brains, in their primal wisdom, often default to the familiar, even if the familiar isn't serving our long-term growth. This is a survival mechanism from our ancient past, when the unknown could mean a direct threat to our physical existence. Today, however, that same instinct is more likely to protect us from an uncomfortable conversation than from a predator. This evolutionary hangover is the foundation of the comfort zone, a place that feels safe because it's predictable, but is in reality a place of stagnation. Think of it like this. Imagine you're a plant. If you keep it in the same small pot with the same amount of sunlight and water, it will survive, it will be comfortable. But will it flourish? Will it reach its full potential? No. It needs to be repotted, exposed to different conditions, even face a bit of adversity to grow strong and resilient. The same principle applies to you. The psychology of the comfort zone trap lies in this illusion of safety, this belief that staying within known boundaries protects you. In reality, it stunts your growth and limits your experience of life. You are, in effect, a plant in a pot you've chosen to keep small. You believe you are protecting yourself from the winds and storms of the outside world, but what you are really doing is preventing yourself from ever becoming a magnificent tree with deep roots and a wide canopy. Moreover, our fear of failure plays a significant role. Stepping outside your comfort zone inevitably means risking failure, and for many, the thought of that sting is more painful than the quiet ache of unfulfilled potential. This fear is not just of the failure itself, but of the social shame and judgment that might come with it. In a world of public successes on social media, a personal failure feels more acute, more devastating. This fear is one reason why people avoid challenges and seek refuge in the predictable. But what if failure isn't the opposite of success? What if it's an integral part of it, a crucial learning opportunity? What if failure is simply feedback, a data point telling you where to adjust your course? This is a perspective championed by Stoic wisdom, which encourages us to reframe our understanding of setbacks. It teaches us that failure is not a reflection of our worth, but a necessary step on the path to mastery. To fear failure is to fear the very process of becoming. True strength isn't the absence of fear, but the mastery of it, as illuminated by Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius's writings, particularly Meditations, offer a timeless guide to navigating the complexities of life with wisdom and resilience. For Marcus Aurelius, true strength wasn't about brute force or external power. It was about inner virtue, self-control, and the ability to reason clearly in the face of adversity. He believed that the world outside could be chaotic and unpredictable, but the world within our own minds could be an unassailable fortress, what he called our inner citadel. This fortress is not something you are born with. It is something you build, brick by brick, with every act of discipline and every moment of rational thought. He understood the allure of comfort, the human inclination to avoid pain and difficulty. Yet, his philosophy consistently points towards the necessity of embracing challenges as opportunities for growth. He famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This profound insight flips the script on our perception of obstacles. Instead of viewing them as roadblocks, Marcus Aurelius encourages us to see them as the very fuel for our development. The difficulty is not a sign to turn back. It is the sign that you are on the right path, that you are being tested and refined. He saw these obstacles not as punishments, but as exercises designed to strengthen the soul and the mind. They were the very things that made us stronger, more capable of handling life's inevitable storms. Marcus Aurelius emphasized that choosing to remain weak was a failure of virtue and a betrayal of our rational nature. He believed our purpose as human beings is to strive for excellence, cultivate inner strength, and live in harmony with reason. Succumbing to the comfort zone trap, allowing fear and aversion to dictate our choices, was a deviation from this fundamental purpose. It was a conscious choice to neglect the very tools of reason and courage that define our humanity. His teachings on the Stoic mindset emphasize the importance of focusing on what we can control, our thoughts and actions, and accepting what we cannot. This radical shift in perspective empowers us to face discomfort and uncertainty with equanimity, rather than retreating into the false safety of weakness. It's not about being emotionless, but about preventing emotions from controlling your actions. The Stoic, like a ship's captain in a storm, does not deny the existence of the waves. He simply focuses on steering the ship, the one thing within his control. The short-term relief of avoiding discomfort always demands a long-term payment of diminished life. So why do people avoid challenges? The immediate answer is simple. Discomfort feels unpleasant. Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This inherent bias, while useful for survival in many situations, can become a major impediment to personal growth in the modern world. We might avoid that difficult conversation at work to sidestep potential conflict, but the unresolved issue festers and creates more stress in the long run. We might avoid starting that new exercise routine because of the initial muscle soreness, but our physical health deteriorates. This avoidance is a short-term solution that creates a long-term problem. It's like using a credit card to pay for a luxury you can't afford. The immediate satisfaction is there, but the bill will eventually come due with interest. This avoidance of discomfort is a key mechanism of the comfort zone trap. We prioritize immediate ease over future well-being, but the price of this short-term relief is steep. It's the feeling of unfulfillment, the nagging sense that you're not living up to your potential. It's the regret that whispers in the quiet moments, reminding you of the opportunities you let slip by. It's a diminished experience of life, a narrower horizon than you are truly capable of seeing. It's the knowledge that you have not lived with courage, but with caution. And caution, when it becomes a way of life, is indistinguishable from fear. The price you pay is a life of what-ifs, a constant low-level hum of anxiety that you are not on the right path. Think of a tightly coiled spring. It might be comfortable in its compressed state, but it's also holding immense potential energy that is not being used. Similarly, staying within your comfort zone keeps your potential dormant. It's only when you are stretched, when you face resistance, that your true strength is revealed and developed. The spring's purpose is not to stay compressed. It is to release its energy, to expand. Your purpose is not to stay small. It is to grow, to learn, to experience the full range of human potential. The resistance you face, whether it's a difficult project, a new skill, or a personal challenge, is the force that stretches you and reveals your true power. This echoes the philosophy of strength championed by Stoicism, that true resilience is forged in the fires of adversity. It is in the struggle, not in the ease, that you discover who you are and what you are capable of becoming. The pain of growth is temporary, but the pain of stagnation is a permanent feature of a life half-lived. The path from weakness to strength is paved with intentional discomfort. The good news is that the tendency to stay weak is not a permanent condition. It's a pattern of behavior and thought that can be consciously changed. The key lies in gradually and intentionally stepping outside your comfort zone trap. It's not about making massive, dramatic leaps, but about taking small, consistent actions that push your boundaries. This is about building momentum, one deliberate act at a time. You don't have to quit your job and move to a different country to start. You can begin with a small act of bravery today. Think of it like learning a new language. You don't become fluent overnight. You start with basic vocabulary and grammar, gradually increasing your understanding and ability through consistent practice and the occasional awkward conversation. You will make mistakes, you will stumble over words, and you will feel embarrassed. But with each effort, you become a little more confident, a little more capable. Similarly, building mental strength and overcoming the psychology of weakness requires consistent effort and a willingness to tolerate discomfort. It is the willingness to be a beginner again and again, to accept the awkwardness of not knowing, that truly forges your resilience. Every time you push through that feeling, you are not just completing a task, you are rewiring your brain's relationship with discomfort. This is where discipline over motivation becomes crucial. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the tides. Discipline, on the other hand, is a conscious choice to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. It's the steady hand that guides you through the uncomfortable moments, the inner resolve that keeps you moving forward when your comfort zone is screaming for you to retreat. Discipline is the promise you make to yourself and the promise you keep. Drawing upon Marcus Aurelius's wisdom, we understand that cultivating this inner discipline is an act of self-mastery, a fundamental aspect of living a virtuous and fulfilling life. Start small. Choose one area where you tend to avoid discomfort. Perhaps it's finally addressing that overdue task, having that difficult conversation, or pushing yourself a little harder during your next workout. The more you intentionally expose yourself to manageable discomfort, the more your comfort zone will expand, and the more resilient you will become. Imagine your comfort zone as a small, dimly lit room. It feels safe and familiar, but it also limits your view and your movement. Each time you intentionally step outside that room, even for a brief moment, you expose yourself to new sights and sounds, to the vastness of the world outside. Initially, it might feel overwhelming, even scary. But with each return, you bring back new experiences, new perspectives, and a growing understanding of what lies beyond your self-imposed limitations. Slowly, the walls of that small room start to feel less confining, and the desire to explore the wider world grows stronger. It's not about destroying the room, but about realizing it was never the only place to live. You discover that the world outside is far more interesting than the safe, familiar corners you've known your whole life. Your potential isn't just a possibility, it's a responsibility. Embracing the challenge of overcoming weakness isn't just about personal gain, it's also about fulfilling a deeper human obligation. You have unique talents, perspectives, and abilities that the world needs. By choosing to stay within the comfort zone trap, you are not only limiting yourself, but also depriving the world of your potential contributions. Stoic wisdom, particularly the emphasis on virtue and living in accordance with nature, suggests that we have a duty to cultivate our strengths and strive for excellence. This isn't about ego or external validation. It's about becoming the best version of ourselves, not only for our own sake, but also for the benefit of those around us. When you choose strength over weakness, you become a more resilient partner, a more capable leader, a more compassionate friend. Think about the impact you could have if you consistently pushed beyond your self-imposed limitations. What problems could you solve? What innovations could you create? What positive influence could you exert? By embracing the discomfort of growth, you unlock not only your own potential, but also your capacity to make a meaningful difference in the world. This understanding shifts the perspective from "why am I not stronger" to "what can I contribute if I choose to be stronger?" It instills a sense of purpose that transcends the fleeting comfort of staying weak and propels you towards a life of greater meaning and fulfillment. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know below.